This week on Head to Head, the Star Wars Celebration wrap-up.
You're listening to Head to Head, a Star Wars podcast. Two fans, two generations, all things Star Wars. Begins now.
Hello, everybody. I'm Eric Vansel.
And I'm Daryl Sanders.
And we're your hosts for this podcast. So we were just watching, actually right before we started recording the show, the exciting trailer and trailers for Cobra Kai Season 2.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, now that's a show that you and I watched last year. And I remember it was funny, too, because when I first heard about it, I didn't really take it that seriously. Like, I thought it was going to be almost a comedy or just, like, I was curious about it, but I didn't really have high expectations.
Right.
And then when I saw it, I was completely blown away by how good the writing was, how good, the acting was, the new cast, like the new actors did really, really well, and you cared about them. And I mean, in a lot of ways, that show, in a lot of ways, is actually superior to me to the films.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, when you brought it to my attention that they even had Cobra Kai, because I remember we were working together, you were telling me about it, and I was just like, okay, I got to check it out. And because I'm a huge fan of course, the Karate Kid movies. And when I watched it, I was just amazed at like how great the story was. And like, because I'm like, okay, well, what story are they going to tell at this point? And then when I kind of saw how it evolved, I was just like, whoa, like this is actually kind of cool. And, even kind of played with the whole thought of Daniel kind of being the bully thing again. So I kind of like that.
Yeah, it's almost like a spin, like he's the bad guy and now Johnny's, more the victim. And it's funny because in the midst of all this Star Wars stuff and, the Star Wars celebration, which of course is pretty much what our whole show is about today, I've been, because of my interest in Cobra Kai and everything, I've just been getting all these videos now that it's closer to the release date. It comes out in 2 days.
Yeah, man. We've been, trailer happy with from everything from Star Wars to now Cobra Kai. So it's really been cool. And if you guys haven't seen Cobra Kai, I know you have to do the whole YouTube Premium thing, but, you should really check it out. We would both, I think, highly recommend it. Definitely. Especially if you're a fan of the movies.
Yes, absolutely. All right, well, let's leave the dojo and go to the cantina.
Let me bow.
Yeah, right. Exactly. We'll trade our headband in for a pint or whatever, right? So again, this is going to be all panel guys. Yeah. So even though we're going to the different segments, that's really not.
Yeah, it's a little bit different.
Yeah, this show's going to be a little bit different.
Yeah, we're talking about all the panels that happened at Star Wars Celebration and just wrapping up everything.
Yeah, this is going to be a wrap-up. Last week, we did the episode 9 panel, and we talked a little bit about Jedi Fallen Order and a couple of stuff. So this week, as promised, we're going to do a wrap-up and give our thoughts on the celebration as a whole.
Yeah. So, for me, I can say that, although we didn't get a chance to go this year like we wanted to, it looked really nice. I was happy to see a lot of the different, characters and actors. And, of course, the fans are having a blast there. I really liked the setup they had there.
Yeah, the setup was probably, I think, the best I've ever seen.
So far, yep. I thought that was really cool. And then, of course, dealing with the different panels and, everybody kind of excited to see new footage and to hear there's some panels were a little bit more informative and others were lacking, in my opinion. So I think in some ways, the panels that you didn't think that you were going to get more information from, you actually did. Like there are some panels that you're like, okay, they're probably not going to give us a whole lot. And then they wind up giving you more than probably what you would expect.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whoa, okay, cool. And then stuff that you really wanted to hear more about, they didn't give you a whole lot.
Yeah.
So,
as is typically the case with Star Wars.
Yeah, and then it's still this whole shroud of mystery, though.
Yeah.
Like, that's one of the things that's like kind of underlying theme throughout the whole celebration is this whole thing that even like the actors themselves are still like, okay, I've never seen this footage. I've only heard about it. I've read a little bit of this. I don't know the full story. I don't even know how this thing ends. Like, it's just...
Yeah, but what's really strange, though?
In that mode.
Absolutely. I totally agree with everything you just said. It's just that the one thing that I found a little bit different is the fact that even though you really didn't get as much information as you thought you would get or thought you should get, I still found everything pretty satisfying.
Yeah.
You know, like I was satisfied overall with it.
For the most part for me. I mean, there's one in particular that I wish I got more, and we're probably about to get ready to talk about that pretty soon.
Yeah, well, I mean, the other thing that I should say, maybe as far as a whole overall wrap-up of everything, was I really like the way they handled the streaming part of it this time.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, now, the one thing that I did not do, that I did do in 2017, you know how they actually have, and they have this on YouTube still. In fact, we might leave a link to a few of them in the show notes, but they actually would do the entire day. Like, you can just watch the whole day in real time.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, they broke it out. And what I like about the breakout videos is that you have the panels, but then you also have all the individual interviews, you know, that they did on the show floor or whatever. And then you also had a bunch of fan stuff. And, you know, I just really thought that if you couldn't make it to Star Wars Celebration this year, that at least you had a feeling like you were still part of it.
All right. And
I thought that was great.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, with the panels and everything, I did love the interview segments that they have with. So they would kind of have a panel, and then they would also still bring out some of the characters or the actors from those panels, and they would actually have like one-on-one conversations. So like Ahmed Best was one, Ian McDiarmid was another. Who else did they have?
Oh, they had Ashley Eckstein.
Ashley.
They actually had
Anthony Daniels, of course. You know, he did his.
I believe they had Pedro Pascal too.
Oh, yep, from Mandalorian.
But I'd have to double check that one. But I do remember, and I didn't watch a lot of those, mostly because of time, and I really wanted to watch the panels that I knew we were going to go in depth on. But you know, I was just impressed to see that they had a lot of those panels available, or a lot of those interviews available, that they actually, you know, followed up. And because some of the other celebrations, they would do that, but it wasn't as plentiful. And I just think that the way that they handled the whole thing, you know, was really good. Even if you didn't really 100% get everything you wanted from a particular panel, the whole experience. So I can imagine being there must have just been incredible. And hopefully, if they have it next year, we'll get there.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and speaking of one of the panels, I'll just go into the whole.
We're going to our first panel?
Our first panel, man. Might as well jump in.
Panel. Ironically enough, our first panel was actually probably the last major panel.
Yep. And it was the 20th anniversary of The Phantom Menace, Episode 1. So, Warwick Davis came out. He did his thing as usual, and he was awesome. He's great.
Yeah, I always loved him as
he's hilarious.
You know, he's funny. He's insightful. He's actually surprisingly really, really good. Yeah. You know, he's somebody that, you know, he does his homework. He takes it seriously. He's really good with the audience, too. Yeah. Because most of the panels that he was on, he would just, like, open up the show by going out in the audience and, you know, interacting with them. And, I mean, he was, you know, he's just a very warm, kind, inviting person, I think. Yeah. I mean, so he's a perfect host for this stuff.
Yeah, he's become one of the ambassadors, kind of, the whole Star Wars
thing.
He's
almost like how Anthony Daniels has always been. Yeah. Except, and much like Anthony Daniels, although Anthony Daniels has been in every Star Wars movie or
game, everything.
I don't think he's in Resistance, though.
Yeah, well,
unless he plays, like, you know, some other character, but I don't think he is. I'd have to double check, but I don't think he is. But yeah, but like him, Warwick Davis actually has been in a lot of the films. Yeah, he's always, like, you know, chomping at the bit to get back in Star Wars somewhere, somehow. I mean, he debuted in Return of the Jedi as we all know, as Wicket, the
Ewok.
Yeah, the Ewok, the Star Ewok, right?
Right.
But then, you know, he also made an appearance as like a audience member in the pod race.
Yep, in Episode 1.
Yep. And then in Episode 2, I'm pretty sure he was in Episode 2 and 3. Like, as different characters. And then, of course, he made his appearance in Solo, and he's been in Rebels. And so he's actually been represented in quite a few of them. So he's got a lot of insight for the different eras.
Clone Wars, too. Yep.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, he's a guy that is actually a good person to host a lot of these different panels because he's probably been involved with a lot of, the subject matter.
Yeah, and for me, the Phantom Menace panel was my least favorite out of all of them.
I thought it was lacking, to be honest.
Especially with I appreciated seeing the creators and everything, the people who kind of helped bring it to life, and because I understand, because I remember when Phantom Menace debuted, it was one of the first digitally creative movies that kind of took the scene. Really.
Yeah, it definitely launched the whole digital cinema revolution.
Yeah, and so I was really impressed about how they kind of did things, especially with the motion capture thing and with Jar Jar and all that type of stuff was very interesting and creative. And it's kind of how they wanted the city to look and what George's vision was for everything. So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, that was cool.
But I kind of wish that, more of the actors.
Well, and here's my problem with it.
Especially when it's a 20-year anniversary.
Right. That's my whole thing. It's kind of okay, if this was a, kind of a behind the scenes sort of making of, or a, 20 years of making Star Wars, or, a Phantom Menace behind the scenes panel or something, the birth of digital or something crazy like that. That would be one thing. But when you're talking about a 20th anniversary celebration of the movie, and, thank goodness they got Ian McDiarmid to do that, because he's really the only major guy. I mean, they had Ahmed Best, and that was
Ray Park. I mean,
they had Ray Park. And actually, I thought my favorite part of the whole panel was just the interview with Ian and Ray. There's a whole, and you can see that. They actually broke that up. Somebody did a video on YouTube where they actually separated that from the rest. That's really all you need.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing is that, you didn't have Liam Neeson, you didn't have Ewan McGregor, you didn't have Hayden Christensen. I mean, not Hayden. Jake Lloyd wasn't there.
Natalie Portman. Nobody would expect her to be there.
Yeah.
She wasn't. Her whole experience on Star Wars was not as great, but. And I think she wants to distance herself from that. But yeah, you had none of the major players there. You had
Samuel Jackson. Or,
it's
anybody. I mean, that's what I'm saying. You had major people who could have really contributed to that experience, and who fans really wanted to see. And it's just kind of
and what'd you get? You got Jar Jar, C-3PO, the Emperor, and Darth Maul.
Yep.
And that was pretty much it on the actor side. And to me, that just was not a complete 20th anniversary Phantom Menace experience. If you're going to go all out and actually have a panel dedicated to it.
Yeah.
Now, sure, maybe they try to reach out to all these other people and they just weren't there. But it's at least attempt to get, one of those, hey, sorry, I couldn't join you videos. You know?
Exactly. Especially Ewan McGregor, he's always wanted, he really wants to play Obi-Wan, so I don't know what happened with that.
Yeah, it just seems to me like they weren't even trying at that point. It was definitely the least satisfying. Other than Ray and Ian, it's kind of a lot of the, I don't know, it just didn't seem like. It's like you said, they focused more on the behind-the-scenes stuff, which was great. It was fascinating, and it's definitely something that did deserve its own panel, maybe, but not as part of the 20th anniversary of Phantom Menace.
Yeah, exactly. When you're trying to see how these actors, especially, at that time, a lot of them had to interact within this whole green screen era, which is something they weren't used to.
Exactly.
And, even with, Ian... okay, he had to play two roles, and he really didn't know that Sidious and Palpatine were the same person.
Yes, that was cool.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. That was cool. But here's another thing too. This one just popped in my head. It's okay, you're gonna do this whole behind the scenes. Where's George Lucas?
Yeah.
Why not? If you're gonna focus on something like that, then let's hear from the guy. Where it's you know what? I knew that I was gonna eventually have to go back and make episodes 1, 2, and 3. Episode 1 was the first one. Here's some challenges that I faced. I mean, at least if you're going to do a more behind the scenes thing, it's great. Was it cool that, we got to see the artist that painted Watto for 8 hours? Sure. But
right.
Was really that's what you're going to give me for the 20th anniversary of the Phantom Menace, this big celebration?
Yeah.
Is, look at me painting Watto?
Yeah, exactly. Or,
Yeah,
even Anthony Daniels, he kind of had to kind of steal the show a little bit just because to make it interesting a little bit. I mean, granted, I'm at best, once again, happy for him to get his due as playing Jar Jar, even though a lot of people didn't like the character. But a lot of people,
a lot of challenges in playing that character, especially at that time.
Especially that time, and especially for that point in his career, because, I didn't know that he was in Stomp, and the whole...
Yeah, I know.
That whole thing is like, okay, like, out of this whole cast of Stomp, like, what was it about him that, like, everybody's like, okay, we need him to play Jar Jar?
Yeah, exactly.
Because you had this whole giant cast.
Well, and here's another thing, too, is that a lot of times, and people have said this off and on, but it's like, what is it? It's everybody gives Andy Serkis this whole thing, but Ahmed Best is really the first major guy to do this
mocap thing.
Yeah, this whole mocap thing, at least to that degree, and it's... it's almost like he doesn't get...
Yeah, the dude that he...
Just because people don't like the character.
Right. And, for those... And that's the thing. And it's crazy because, once again, like, Jar Jar being George Lucas's favorite character.
Yeah.
And I was just like, well, wow. I mean, you mean...
Maybe that's why, if he had said that around, Skywalker Ranch, a lot of people are like, maybe you should sell the company or, Disney's looking. Maybe you ought to just not direct the next one.
Exactly. We got this, George.
It's kind of like age does catch up with you. Look at Billy D. I had to throw that one in there.
Yeah, man. I mean, like I said... And I think even the story of the Phantom Menace, I think it was really cool just because you kind of see how everything was set up, with Palpatine. Mm-hmm. Like his whole influence on everything was kind of like, oh, okay.
Well, that's why thank goodness they had Ian McDiarmid there.
Yeah.
Because it's like, if you're going to have only maybe one he would be the guy. Mm-hmm. That I would say, because honestly, he could add the most. And what's cool is that Ian really loves the Star Wars franchise enough that he'll give people a satisfying interview.
Right.
Where, you get some people that they're just not that into it. And on one hand, they're appreciative of the fans, but on the other hand, you could tell they're mentally checking their watch, like, okay, when's this thing done so I can,
go home and play with my kids or something.
Exactly. That's why I was really surprised when Harrison Ford did his whole thing, that he was actually is somewhat more into it, I think, than a lot of people, because everybody kept saying that. Like, he interacted with the fans. He seemed like genuinely happy to be there.
Right.
I mean, he still thought that some of the questions and all that were like, really, guys, do you really care to this degree? It's a movie, it's not even that interesting. But I mean, he was surprised, I think.
Yeah. I mean, even with Ray Park being there, just hearing, like, okay, his movements of being Darth Maul, how like iconic they were, just because, and I do remember like watching him, as a kid. I was in high school and watching, Darth Maul, kind of when those doors opened and kind of hearing like I remember seeing the smirk on his face, and I was like, all right, we all wanted to see like who this guy was really,
hearing his whole background on it and just, his experiences on the set. I thought that was interesting because he's a guy that you don't really get to hear a whole lot, but he's one of the main. He's one of the main villains in the movie. And certainly the one that shows, and he's. Darth Maul was a pretty iconic character. And
that's what I was just about to say. Like, it's hilarious that he's so iconic and he didn't hardly even speak.
Yeah, I know.
It's just like amazing to me. It's just like his presence alone just makes him, like, okay. And just, of course, that was the debut of the double-bladed lightsaber. So, no one had ever seen anything like so. When
that's
we first
true.
Saw
That was a new thing. Like, ooh. And then you're wondering, like, how that's going to look in combat. And,
and then, of course, he's got this face paint and horns, and you're like, you're not used to seeing Sith Lords look like this. So
no, and the thing that's cool about Darth Maul is that it's like he kind of was relegated to just a small part or whatever. But if you really think about it, he's endured quite a bit. Not just the love for the character, but, he got a second life on Clone Wars.
Yep.
Then Rebels. Mm-hmm. Then he was in Solo.
Yep.
So I mean, it's almost like you're seeing this rebirth of Maul type of a thing. So I think people's appreciation for the guy who brought that character to life originally it was good that he's not only getting his due, but that we actually get to hear a lot about his experiences. Because as far as I remember, he didn't do a whole lot. He did some interviews, but I thought that he should have been showcased a lot more.
Yeah, I mean, and I was totally blown away and like utterly shocked to see him at Solo, because I wasn't expecting that at all.
No, me neither. And the thing that's funny about that is the fact that it's like you knew he was alive, and you knew he was alive during that time period, but yeah, it never even dawned on me that
he would be behind.
He would be behind all that stuff, and that they would, actually have that. And it makes me wonder if the original Lord Miller version had that as well.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because I think I remember that I thought it was actually Ron Howard that picked Maul. It was somebody that picked Maul, I remember, because there was like, I don't remember exactly who it was, but when they were going back and forth about who they should make as the main bad guy, and they were thinking of bringing some, almost like to have that, oh, wow moment or whatever, and then I think it was actually Ron Howard that picked Maul. You guys can...
Yeah.
Naturally, of course, correct us if we're wrong. We don't care about that. We're, we're fans like you guys. So, you guys want to write us at head-to-head-SW on Twitter or Facebook, or, send us a really weird meme on Instagram, or hey, another thing that you can do, we don't actually advertise this as much, but you can also write us email. Good old-fashioned emails, Star Wars at head-to-head-SWpodcast.com.
Which I also think celebrated its 20-year anniversary.
Yeah, right? Right, yeah.
People start emailing in like 99.
Exactly. There you go. And then you could send us an email, and that way you can tell us at length why we're clueless and, don't really know what we're talking about or whatever. But, yeah, I mean, certainly communicate with us. Let us know what you think. Let us know what you guys thought of the 20-year anniversary of
the Phantom Menace
panel, because I'm sure a lot of you guys either were there at Celebration, and if you're there, please definitely write on our social media and tell us about your experiences. Post your pictures on our Instagram page.
Definitely, we'd love to see you guys.
Absolutely, we didn't get any, so might as well have somebody posting pictures on it, right?
Yes,
Let us talk about it
with your own eye.
Yeah, exactly. And let's start doing a hashtag head-to-head SW podcast. So that way everybody can
kind of chime in, and then everybody can
chime in, and then
keep
that
up
way,
with everybody.
And it puts us more on the map too. Right now our community is small but powerful, but we're definitely looking to grow, and we want to do that with your help.
Yeah, we're like a little resistance right now.
Yes. All right, so now it's actually time for our next segment, which we'll go ahead and let you, in the interest of having all of our segment theme music and stuff.
Right. This will be Duel of the Fates. And this week, we're just going to just move down to...
Yeah, it's not really any kind of a duel, although we've actually had a lot of times where it really wasn't anyway. Like, we're in perfect agreement. It's like, okay, moving on.
But this panel showed some duels, I guess, if you want to call it that
a little bit.
So we're going to actually cover the Mandalorian panel.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
here we go.
This one was cool. I know, Eric, you've been hankering for the Mandalorian because you love bounty hunters anyway. I mean, you've always
and I've always
been a huge bounty hunter.
I was kind of a Boba Fett fan.
And Bosk. And,
and Bosk and IG-88.
Yeah.
Which, of course, we did learn that it's not actually IG-88 that's going to be in this.
Yeah.
It's an IG series droid. But either way, you know what? That's fine.
Why, they even have Instagram back there?
There you go. Instagram 88. Man,
that's a cool handle.
I know. I really should have just swiped that for myself. But yeah, not only was this panel, not only is the show content cool, because the thing that I was really disappointed about was when that whole 1313 series was going to be canceled. Well, they were going to have the game, and then they were going to have like that. George was actually developing the live action series, and it was going to be following the whole Coruscant Underworld. So the concept has been there for a long time. But then when they finally said, okay, we're going to do this, The Mandalorian, it's going to basically be that. And the thing that I thought was interesting about the panel is the fact that, number one, they did give us some stuff. Probably not as much as we would have liked. In fact, the only way you could see the trailers is by the people that
posted.
They disregarded please don't, record these, and then they posted them.
Yeah, and that was the thing that really like kind of upset me, because it's kind of like, all right, you show us this episode 9 trailer, and they were like, we're over the moon for this, and people are hankering to see this, and it's like, you're live streaming this stuff. Like, why shut us out?
Well, here's the thing. They do this a lot. It's just not, what they do is they like to give the people that actually attend the celebration an exclusive. And I get that. What I would have preferred, now they might not have actually had they probably don't have the footage, but see, it would have made more sense to give them the Cassian exclusive, the Cassian Andor.
Right.
But, the Mandalorian is like kind of a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, it's
it's sort of like the
and everybody
first live
knows
action.
About it, yeah,
and everybody knows about it. So I mean, and it's not like people aren't going to post fuzzy videos on YouTube and stuff anyway, which they did, thank goodness.
Yeah, because
why wouldn't you want to create the hype for this? That was the one thing that I really didn't think made any sense.
I didn't understand that, especially like, okay, granted, November's not. I mean, it's not that far away. Honestly.
No, it isn't, but still.
I mean, considering, it's April, but...
Here's what they should have done. They should have done the Clone Wars trailer as a exclusive to Celebration.
Yeah, I could see that.
Because, everybody pretty much knows about Clone Wars, and if they just said, Clone Wars is coming back, but we're only going to give the people that are here the exclusive trailer, I don't think that would have been as bad.
Yeah.
But why would you shut somebody out of a show that you're really trying to promote?
Heavily,
Nobody really knows about it. Well, I won't say nobody, but I mean, a lot of the casual, movie fans or even Star Wars fans, they're not necessarily clued in on this stuff.
Right. And then they even had, I think they were like showing like infrared things to block out people's cameras or whatever.
Really?
Yeah, they were actually like shooting, like the people at the facility, like security, they would like shoot infrared.
Not at the panel.
Not at the panel, but when they were doing the trailer. So people wouldn't record it. They would actually like send out this infrared beam.
Well, people did record it.
Yeah, I mean, they were trying to do the best.
I mean, you saw it, right?
Well, yeah, I saw the one with Carl Weathers, that one. There was another, I saw the behind the scenes.
The Wurzog. Yeah, there was
another one.
There was a one where, it was like the old Imperial character was actually making the deal with the Mandalorian to find the...
Yeah, I saw that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was amazing. And that's the kind of tone... Because the thing that's cool about this whole time period to me is the fact that, between, the whole victory and everything of the Empire falling and all that dies down, the New Republic isn't quite...
Set up yet.
So you have this, like, no man's land area of...
Yeah, like there's no order, really.
Yeah. And
everybody's
so it's very much like what you would expect, right? You'd have remnants of the Empire fighting for power because the head guy is gone.
Mm-hmm.
And they've touched on this in the novels a lot about, like, they had this one, I think it was an admiral. I don't even think it was a grand admiral. But it was in... I'm trying to remember which book it was, but it was one of the new canon novels where I think actually it was in one of the Aftermath
I was
books.
about to say Aftermath.
It could be the first one. Actually, I think it was. It was the first Aftermath book. And it was basically like there was this one admiral or grand admiral. It's been a minute since I read the book. But what was cool was he had actually gotten a bunch of the guys together. They were loyal to him. And he started basically going off like he's the new leader of the Empire. In the meantime, the other guys, the other commanders and stuff were like, well, who's this guy think he is?
Yeah.
And then Ray Sloan, of course, rose up to the ranks, and she ended up controlling, like, the biggest, most powerful Star Destroyer in the fleet. So, it's like, it's really interesting with The Mandalorian because you're going to have these different factions of Imperial leaders that are either going to try to claim control of the Empire as a whole, or they're just going to try to hold on to as much control over their areas.
Yeah, their sector is much.
Yeah, their territories or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, a lot of times people are going to, you know, they want to go with what's familiar.
Right.
It's almost like, okay, well, the Empire was really bad and everything, but at least there was some law and order.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and they might go to them for help, and it's going to be this whole power struggle. And to me, that was always one of the most fascinating things.
Yeah, it's just like circumstances, like situations that would inevitably happen. How do you respond to that?
Yeah.
You know, and then of course you have, you know, bounty hunters and people out there who are trying to make livings and who are trying to do stuff. I mean,
almost like a smuggler kind of a thing. They could have easily, instead of the Mandalorian, called it the smuggler, the Carillion, you know, or whatever. And it's like, it would have been an equally interesting story. But by putting it with the Mandalorian, you know, you have more of a, because there's been a lot, and they address this in the panel too, that the Mandalorians already have somewhat of a history, primarily in Rebels, oddly enough. Clone Wars, yes, you did have quite a bit of a Mandalorian story arc in the Clone Wars, but Dave Filoni really ran with it in Rebels.
Right.
You know, so I think when you take Clone Wars and Rebels together, you have a really strong familiarity with the Mandalorians.
Yeah, I mean, plus he's just like, he looks cool. He's mysterious. You don't know, kind of like, it's kind of setting that whole Old West samurai
it very
kind of
much
vibe.
has like an Old West kind of vibe, you know.
He's the gunslinger, and he's kind of like just trying to make his way and trying to survive, basically.
And I think that that's just like so phenomenal.
Yeah.
It just, and the tone of it's perfect.
It kind of looks like Rogue One a little bit.
It does. That's what it actually reminded me.
Yeah, and that's,
you know, it's funny because I was watching Jedi Council last night. You know, we love, big shout out to Christian Harloff and Ken Knapsack and
Perry Nemiroff.
Yeah, and pretty much everybody, because, you know, they have a lot of people rotating in and out of that show, except for Ken and Christian. But one of the things that one of them brought up was Christian, I believe, that I had that vibe, but I didn't really want to admit it, is that there is part of it that kind of looked like a fan film.
Yeah.
And it was like, I kind of hope that...
Oh, that was Ken Knapsack who said it. Yep.
Was it?
Yeah, that was Ken.
Yeah, because it was... And it was like, I kind of agree with that. I mean, even though I really love the tone and all that, I'm hoping that the TV budget doesn't hurt it too much.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, you know, when you hear Jon Favreau talking about the creation of it, and then when he brought Dave Filoni in it, and the confidence that they have, and just, you know, even the actors that were on there.
Yeah, I mean, even the fact that they went through the whole, like, okay, we're going to bring out the miniatures again. We're doing, and then how you saw the whole testing of
and they're doing it in their garage and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, it's really hearkening back to 1975 or 6 when, you know, Lucas started this whole journey, and it's going back to that original trilogy feel. And I really think that that's the secret of recapturing the magic of Star Wars.
Well, you almost kind of have to, considering where the time period is, too. I mean, because right after Return of the Jedi, you kind of have to give it that look anyway, because it can't look too different with a tone, can't be too different from after Return of the Jedi too much.
Yeah, but don't forget that Return of the Jedi, I mean, as weird as it may sound, the special effects in 83 were vastly superior to the ones in 77.
Yeah, well, I'm just talking about the look of it as far as the scaling of how things...
We'll duel the fates.
We'll get in there one way.
Yeah, right. The Mandalorian, which is better, you know, digital or original? But no, I mean, I get it, and it's true. They do. Overall, when you talk about the original trilogy as a whole, you could see little advancements in there because of the technology, but it's true. It did have a look. That's why when they talked about how they had to call out the 501st Stormtrooper Legion.
And I thought that was awesome.
I thought that was so cool. Well, first of all, I didn't even know that they were calling those guys out for events and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that's another cool tidbit too. Like, they're actually get called out for several things, not just like, you know, like they go to conventions and things like that when they need stormtroopers.
Yeah, and I had no idea that Lucasfilm actually did that. I mean, I
it
knew
makes
that
perfect
they went
sense.
out, did it on their own, but I never even imagine that,
Yeah, and it makes perfect for extras. Like, yeah, all right, these guys already got costumes. We don't have to pay for them and just get them out here.
Yeah, I mean, that's what was so hilarious. Awesome. It's like, man, well, first of all, I thought it was really funny that Lucasfilm didn't have enough Stormtrooper costumes.
Right.
Where it's like, man, we need Stormtroopers, but it's like, we don't have enough costumes. I'm like, you're Lucasfilm, make them. But it's like, and then you can almost hear the conversation in the boardroom too. Well, let's just call it 501st. They already got like all these guys with, tons of stuff. Let's just call them.
And they're like, and of course, when people put up their stuff, now they can say it was like, oh, it's movie used or it was used in the movie. So like now I actually have a Stormtrooper uniform that was actually shot.
Well, and seeing that too, because I imagine in that one scene in the trailer, it was like,
oh yeah,
and he had all those Stormtroopers in the room. That was kind of cool to see too, because you could tell this guy's like holed up in this, little, I don't know, like stronghold, basically, and he's got what he had. It's almost like they're not the all powerful empire anymore. They're like trying to hold on to what they have, and the leader now has to have this whole company of stormtroopers, basically.
Yeah, flank him just to kind of give the
flank
illusion.
him just to give the whole impression that it's just going to be really interesting to me to see where they go with that.
Yeah, I mean, I also love the fact that the casting too, like Gina Serrano, like I love her being in the movie.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see her doing actual acting for a change.
Yeah, and it's the fact that she's like a former MMA fighter, so she has that.
Well, but
presence,
that's it. She's always called in to do like basically. She's usually called on to play some sort of a female
fighter
or something. Anytime they need some action or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
They would call her in to play the role, and it's usually just kind of an extra role. It's not anything of consequence. So for her to be a main character,
right?
And it was cool to see Carl Weathers come in and kind of do the whole Apollo type of thing.
Yeah, I want you.
I want you. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I thought that was fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's just cool to see him, in something like this, and it looks like that role perfectly fits him.
Oh yeah,
just like.
He it's almost the same way that Forrest Whitaker got to be Saw Gerrera.
Yeah.
I kind of look at it like the same way. And I think that Carl Weathers is going to own that character.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it was funny during the panel, when he said, oh, yeah, this is like the most, what did he say?
Oh, basically like the coolest thing he's ever done.
Yeah, and I'm like, dude, you're Apollo Creed, man.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, that just speaks to the testament of Star Wars. Like, Apollo Creed is like, look, that's still not as cool as being, in a Star Wars.
Yeah, I guess it's better to have a smaller role in the most iconic series of all time.
Yeah.
Rather than have, like, be a super important... Because, I mean, if you really think about it, in the Rocky series now, his character is, like, thanks to the Creed movies...
Right.
He's really one of the focal points other than Rocky.
Yeah.
He surpasses Mick, he surpasses... Well, I guess you can say with Drago because of the second Creed, but still, the whole ghost of Apollo Creed just goes through that whole series.
Yeah.
So I mean, that was a pretty big deal for Carl Weathers to say that. Plus, Predator, man, come on.
Oh yeah, Predator.
But no, I mean, his role seems like it's going to be really interesting. That he's kind of the head of this bounty hunter guild.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing that. And that's the thing too, the way that they're setting this whole thing up and. Just the storyline. I'm more excited for The Mandalorian than ever now.
And the cool thing is it's already been approved for 2 seasons already.
Yeah. Well, that was kind of, I don't know. For some reason, it was almost like going back to Cobra Kai, which we, were talking about at the beginning of the show. It's like, I remember there was a big question mark on that. Like, oh, are they going to get a season 2? And, I'm like 3 episodes in going, well, of course they're going to get a season 2.
But that's because you've seen 3 episodes. We haven't seen anything yet.
Well, but I mean, I'm thinking that, first of all, they're going to... Now, they could have actually just intended this to be a limited series, right? So you have one season where they tell a story arc and then it's done. But with the money, with the time, with everything, they obviously were expecting this to go multiple seasons.
Well, yeah, especially like, with the fans clamoring for something like this anyway. I mean, they've been asking for something like this for years. And... Of course, with the fact that he kind of looks like Django anyway.
Yeah. Like a sepia-toned Django.
Yeah.
He's like the sepia-toned, Mandalorian.
Did you see in the it was that one shot in the trailer where he's like walking through the marketplace and there's like this it kind of likens to the old Renaissance era where you could like put a pig on like a stick and you rotate it over the fire.
Oh yeah, where it was that little that creature called the Jabba the Hutt thing?
Yeah, exactly.
Salacious Crumb.
Salacious Crumb, yeah.
You got to wonder if it was him or was it just one of his species?
Exactly, but
yeah,
that was
like
roasting, and
dying.
I was like, man, that was hilarious.
I thought that was so hilarious. It's almost as good as the fried porg.
Yeah,
in The Last Jedi. Yeah, I thought that was cool. It's like, not laughing now, are you?
Right, exactly.
Jabba's not here to protect you anymore. It makes me wonder, too, like, what planets they're going to go to in this.
Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing, too, because you got to wonder, they're going to go to Mandalore, they're going to go to Coruscant again, are
they going to go to Tatooine?
Yep.
Because you got to figure the Hutt's influence is going to be a lot stronger.
Yeah, now that the Empire's gone.
Yeah. I mean, even though the Empire... In their defense, the Empire really
didn't mess with Tatooine.
No, they basically let the Hutts be in control of that whole thing and just left them alone, and in a lot of ways empowered them.
Yeah, it's just the Outer Rim, and they really didn't care about that. So that's going to be really fascinating. Overall, I would say the Mandalorian panel was really, really satisfying. It was really cool. Yeah, they actually got a chance to talk about their characters without giving away too much.
Mm-hmm. And that was one where I definitely felt like I got enough.
Exactly.
I got enough information to be excited.
They gave you enough of the story a little bit and who their characters are, and seeing Paco, he was just so over the top with being happy, just about playing this role.
Oh yeah, one of the funniest things that he did was when he was talking about when he was auditioning or whatever, and he's like, "Okay, so do I get to play this bug?
Yeah,
or,
exactly.
This robot, or it's like, no, dude, you're the Mandalorian." He's just like completely blown away.
Exactly. Yeah. So
yeah,
I can't wait to see it. It's it comes out November 12th on Disney Plus.
Mm-hmm. The new series, which is only $6.99. The whole streaming channel is $6.99 a month and $69 a year. So, I mean, if you subscribe for the whole year, you'd almost think the way I'm advertising this that we're getting some affiliate money off of it. I wish.
I know, right?
Yeah. That's not happening anytime soon. But it's a great deal. And I say it that way because it really shocked me on how cheap it was.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I knew they would do it cheap because, you want to do the whole drug dealer thing where, you get people into the product and then you raise the price. But I didn't think it was going to be that cheap.
Right. I mean, the cool thing is it's like the flagship show almost like of Disney Plus so far. I mean,
maybe they got all those Marvel shows.
I mean, I saw the Marvel thing, but I mean, like for Star Wars, it's like the flagship thing.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, I'd agree with that. But what about you guys? What do you think? You got to be looking forward to the show. I mean, do I really need to even ask the question? Are you looking forward to it?
If you're a Star Wars fan, you got to be.
But how much are you looking forward to it? And what about Star Wars on TV? Give us you guys thoughts on this. Hit us up at Head to Head SW on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram. Email us, StarWars at headtoheadswpodcast.com. Definitely subscribe to the YouTube channel because, we'll start to put some more content on there. I mean, as we get more listeners and everything, we could turn you guys into viewers, and then pretty soon we could start, if you got suggestions for videos you'd like to see us make, let us know. And
Absolutely.
We'll make them. All right, what is our next? Well, actually, from a certain point of view, is our normal topic, right?
But our next panel.
Yeah, it's actually our panel. I mean, let's face it. It's a special show, wrapping up Star Wars Celebration.
Absolutely.
Let's go. What's our next panel?
We're going to go with the return of the Clone Wars.
Yes, the Clone Wars panel. Which is kind of interesting because it was almost like an extension in a way of the Mandalorian panel simply because of Dave Filoni's involved.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I really enjoy the Clone Wars. I think out of all of them, it was my favorite one to see. I mean,
Even
I think
more than Episode 9?
Well, I mean, Episode 9 is kind of... the only thing I really wanted to see with Episode 9 was the trailer, to be honest with you. I mean, because I knew they weren't going to give us too much about the movie.
Yeah.
So I mean,
I'll say this.
My thoughts on it wasn't.
I actually thought that the Force Awakens panel was a better panel.
Yeah.
Like, it gave more information. It was just a cooler panel to watch. I can honestly say that about almost all the panels. They seemed a little drier. Even though I have to say that, like, Kathleen Kennedy's excitement, and that's true with even the Mandalorian, because she's the one that introduced the Mandalorian panel.
Mm-hmm.
And, her excitement is really telling to me. Like, it really gives me a lot of hope for the future of Star Wars because she's so excited. When your leader's excited, and I think that stretched into the Clone Wars panel because that, Filoni himself, besides being a protege of George Lucas, he's just such a fan.
Yeah, he's a huge fan of Star Wars in general.
Big fan of Star Wars.
Yeah, I even love the whole story about him like dressing up as Plo Koon, that's what I'm saying. Like, he's that kind of guy.
Mm-hmm.
So I really was excited to see things from the Clone Wars. I didn't expect to see that many teasers out of it.
Yeah, I know.
That was the most.
Yeah,
I was like
scenes and teasers. I'll tell you what, man, that whole thing when Ahsoka comes back, she's talking to Anakin in the corridor, and then she comes back and all the clone troopers have their helmets painted like her face.
Yeah, that was like...
Dude, that almost brought tears to my eyes.
I know, dude.
It was so intense.
Yeah, it was just like, wow. And especially that whole conversation they had leading up to it.
Yes.
And she's like, look, they don't have to salute me anymore, and it's like, but it's about loyalty.
Yeah, it was just so deep, man, and it just like tugged your heartstrings.
Especially when you see what she went through with the
I know.
So for them to do that for her, man, she was just like, wow. Even Ashley, because she had never seen it.
Yeah, I know, and she was all crying. And
yeah, she was all crying about it. And Filoni's over there cracking up like, mm-hmm.
And I think I would agree that was probably the best panel too, because the interaction of the people on the panel, I think was a little bit, it was more, I don't really want to say genuine because, the other one, but it was warmer, it was cooler.
It was more like laid back, and they
that's it. It was laid back and relaxed, and
you could tell that they're really bonded. Like just actually reading that whole text,
the text and everything.
Yeah, that's just hilarious. And then Filoni's response, like him putting the hat over his face, like, oh boy. And the whole trust tree thing, like I thought,
the trust tree. And then when Sam Witwer was like, "Hey, how about another seed for the trust tree?" Or something? They kept that whole joke going the whole time. I thought that was awesome.
Yeah, and then of course, like once again, now, granted, Clone Wars hasn't been gone that long, but
it feels like it.
It feels like it though, but it hasn't been gone that long. But yet you had everybody like who did voices from Yoda to Grievous to like Rex.
Well, it's because a lot of those guys are the same person though. It's like.
But what I'm saying, like you had a bunch. You had maybe about 6 people up there who were actually like the main, like Obi-Wan, the guy who did Obi-Wan Kenobi. You had Ahsoka, you had Grievous, you had Rex, and then of course the guy who does the narrator and Yoda. But it's the fact that you had all these people there where the Phantom Menace was celebrating 20 years.
Yeah.
And you see what I'm saying? Like, that's my point. It's just like.
Well, yeah, and that's it. It's right. It's anemic. It's almost like, in the Phantom Menace, are we going to get, like.
The guy who does Watto.
The guy who does Watto or, just like some background character.
One of the handmaidens that Padme was, like.
Are you going to get like, the gaffer or something from. It's kind of like exactly. It's one of those things where the Clone Wars panel was not lazy at all as far as having that panel put together and the way it was presented. And
even listening to Dave Filoni just talking about like him returning, like how nervous he was returning back to the Clone Wars because he knew how much work it was going to be.
The other thing that I thought was pretty telling, and I didn't even think about this, is the fact that when Ashley Eckstein was talking about, I was used to playing Ahsoka in Rebels.
Yeah, the older, more seasoned.
Yeah, the older, more seasoned, and, she kind of got into that vibe, and now she has to go back to when she was younger and a little bit more naive, maybe, and it's, that was kind of a weird transition, and, and thinking about it, I'm like, yeah,
I honestly, I would have never thought about it.
Right. It's like, it would be pretty challenging, actually, because you're in this mindset now, and it's tough to...
Go back now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I always love when like actors who especially do like voices when they actually you actually see them do the voice. That's always entertaining to me because it's like, wow, you finally see like the person now.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when I first saw like the cast of The Simpsons do it.
Yep.
It's just like, whoa. But
it is so bizarre.
Yeah, it's really bizarre, but it was cool. Even Filoni though, I mean, like just being such a Star Wars fan and him being very gracious. He is like, he's almost bashful for like all the accolades that he gets, but he's well deserving of it, man, because I mean, everybody.
He's the guy that really, he's going to be the one to carry the mantle of Star Wars forward.
Honestly, yeah, I feel the same way from,
he's kind of the new George Lucas to me.
He even kind of talks like him.
Yeah. And he's the one that deserves it. I mean, he was Lucas's protege. He knows the most about it. He has the most passion probably for it, maybe even more so than the story group. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's tough to say, but he's out there being a cheerleader for Star Wars as well. He's that super fan like us.
He's writing and stuff. Yeah, he's writing everything. He's actively involved. He's directing. He's doing it all, man. And he's knocking it out of the park, and that's why I'm really happy to see what his input is on Mandalorian because he's a part of that too.
Especially since he directed the debut episode and wrote it, I think. It's like, how cool is that?
Yeah, because we've always been saying, like, I wonder what he would be like as a director. Like,
as a live-action director. Yeah. Now we get to find out. But then we also get to go back and see him finally get to finish. Because that was the thing that was bad, is that, they had all those unproduced episodes, so they did kind of a pseudo season 6. But it still didn't end the way he wanted to end. Now he can go back and properly end it. Yeah,
and it's a 12-episode arc. And it's even hilarious because even like I said before, a bit earlier, is that the actors don't even know how it ends.
Yeah,
exactly. He's keeping stuff away from them.
I think that's so hilarious.
And he's just like, see, this is why we only could do 12 episodes because they can't, they can't contain themselves. I mean, and that just shows like the excitement and the love that these actors have for the franchise.
Well, the other thing, and it goes back to the Mandalorian for a second, that I was really happy about was when one of the criteria to direct an episode was you had to be a fan of the series. I thought that was a stroke of genius on their part.
Yeah.
Like you can't, they should really do that with
everything. Honestly.
Yeah, with the movies and everything. It's like, well, don't let somebody. The nice thing about this time period we're living in now is you can get extremely talented directors who are also Star Wars fans.
Right.
Because Lucas, he created it. He's not really he is, but he's not a fan like us. Like, he doesn't have our perspective.
Yeah, I was going to say our perspective is different.
That's the problem. He has it from a different perspective. The people that he got, like, Irvin Kershner and, all those guys, Richard Marquand or whatever, they weren't really fans of it. They were there to do a job. They did it really well, and they're part of the architect of our childhoods, but at the same time, it's really interesting to see these guys who grew up with it like we did. Now they get to make it.
Yeah, like JJ. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, that's what
example.
That's what makes it so cool, and that's why I'm so rooting for him, man, just to bring this thing on home because he's a fan, so it's almost kind of like if it doesn't go over well, as a fan, you almost feel like you failed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's just the extra pressure outside of just being a director, but as a fan.
That's the biggest thing is that, and I think that that's what this whole weekend was about. It was about the fans, and the fans had a voice, and it was so nice to see that, the fans actually were united in their joy and their celebration of Star Wars. And I think overall, then there was some panels that we didn't cover at all. I mean, there's one about different Star Wars designs. There was somewhere in there was a novel panel. I know that. I couldn't find it though.
Yeah.
There was just like a bunch of different things and we didn't cover it. But I think that from our perspective anyway, I think we covered the most.
Yeah, the big things.
Yeah, the most important ones, the ones that I think will tell the future of the franchise.
Yes, the big Carillion ships.
Yes. So let us know what you guys think.
Yeah, definitely hit us up on Head to Ed SW on Facebook, Twitter, and definitely, of course, you had awesome pictures from Chicago that week. Please put them on Instagram. We love to see you guys. Did you see did you see the guy who dressed up like Obi-Wan Kenobi? And he actually kind of sounded like, well, he had the Stormtrooper version, the Clone Wars version of Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
That was cool.
That was cool.
I was like, that's weird because I never would have.
See, and that's the other reason why I wish that we had been there is because, you get all these people they put a lot into their costumes. I also thought, speaking on the Clone Wars panel, that it was cool that Ashley Eckstein actually makes different costumes.
Yeah, like
she's talking about that whole jumpsuit thing. She's like, I got to make that now. Like she's actually made Ahsoka costumes before, so that was cool. So yeah, let us know at Head to Head SW on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Email us at Star Wars at headtoheadswpodcast.com. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Look, and definitely in the comments section on YouTube too. If you happen to be catching this episode on YouTube, write your thoughts in the comments section. Let us know, first of all, if you attended the celebration. And even if you didn't, just maybe you caught the episodes on YouTube like we did. Mm-hmm. Check it out. So now,
yes,
the one segment that is still intact
remains
in this,
a constant.
Yeah, that remains a constant, is Clear Your Mind. All right, this is where we answer your submitted questions. So without further ado, what's the first one?
All right, the first question comes from Jahman Ringo. The question is, what was your favorite panel at Celebration?
Jeez.
How fitting.
Yeah, and we essentially answered that. But we'll answer it again. I'm going to say, content-wise, still episode 9. We got the episode 9 trailer, we got the title, we got all that. But I'd still going to go with Clone Wars, man. The Clone Wars panel, to me, was just the most well-done of the panels. It was the most... And that's not to say that there weren't moments that I think were better. Like, I definitely enjoyed the Ian McDiarmid, Ray Park interviews from the 20th anniversary celebration of Phantom Menace. But I just thought that the panel... they built this thing up, and I was so excited about it for months, and I was really let down by it, to be honest.
Yeah. For me, I think it would be Clone Wars would be my favorite. But episode 9 panel gave me chills. Just watching the confidence in everybody that they had in the movie. And everybody kind of just really being excited for it.
Well, I think too it was opening night.
Yeah, it's
the
opening
first panel.
Yeah.
I mean, it started on Thursday, but I mean, it was like the first major panel, and
you're really jonesing because they have the trailers.
Yeah, and they have the trailer. Can't wait to see it. So,
and then of course, nothing beats Ian McDiarmid coming out.
Oh yeah,
and doing
roll it again.
I mean, that was just
that was.
If you had any doubt, okay, are they trying to tease us with something? But then when he came out, man, it's like, oh yeah, there's no hiding it. He's back.
He is back. So I mean, it's going to be really interesting, just to see because, and here's the thing, like I said, there were a lot of panels that we did not see,
right?
So I mean, but of the ones that we saw and the ones that we're covering, I think both of us are going to go with the Clone Wars. We did save the best for last on the show. All right, what do we got?
All right, next question comes from Kel Tappan. The question
sounds like a Star Wars name.
It does. Kel Tappan from Mandalore.
Yes.
Are you more excited for the return of Clone Wars or The Mandalorian?
Oh, The Mandalorian. Only because it's such a vast, untapped resource. The thing about the Clone Wars is that the Clone Wars is contained within this period of time between episodes 2 and 3. A lot of times people forget that. There's only so much you can do. And even though each subsequent season of the Clone Wars got better and better and better to the point where you're about to explode by the time you see Ahsoka walking off.
Yeah, it kind of had that build up at 24.
It does. It does completely. And but the bottom line is a lot of the Clone Wars though did have a lot of filler episodes. And there's a lot of things that, as far as like this season that's coming up, which is going to be this, like you said, 12-episode arc, and it's going to essentially close out the series the way that Filoni wanted to do before it was just abruptly canceled. So I don't want to give the impression to anybody that I am not insanely looking forward to the Clone Wars.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I heard that they were releasing that unofficial season 6 made up of, hey, there's a bunch of completed episodes that we can release. And then, of course, they had Dark Disciple as one of the episodes that was actually written for the show, but then ended up becoming one of my favorite novels.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but the thing is, The Mandalorian is covering a time period. Also, it's somewhat boxed in, but it's a 30-year box, though, guys.
Right.
Between Return of the Jedi and Force Awakens. I mean, there's so much you can do. It's a live-action Star Wars television show, which we've never got before, which I think was funny that they kept referencing the holiday special.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that's...
That just dawned on me, too.
Yeah.
I didn't want to close out the show without all the shout-outs to the holiday special and how they actually did get a little bit of a vibe, which it does kind of have that vibe, actually. But for all those reasons...
I think the big one for me, I would say Mandalorian, too. And I think the big reason is for what you just said is it's the first live action. And it's telling a story that, like, okay, we don't know.
Exactly.
It's like one of those things. Like,
well, we don't know where it. I guess.
Well, I'm saying we know about the Clone Wars in the sense of like we know how it's going to eventually end.
we've had 5 seasons of it.
Not only that, but I mean, it's like in between, that and Sith. So it's Revenge of the Sith. So it's kind of like you gotta. You know what I'm saying? You know how the story ends.
Yeah, spoiler alert, the Jedi lose.
Right, exactly. So it's kind of like not much of a mystery. It's like the Titanic. Like, the ship is going to sink at some point.
Right. The only thing that you could say, though, one of the main things that I think will be interesting is the fact that it looks like it's going to focus on Ahsoka's journey.
Yeah. And
maybe give us a little bit of an insight on how she ended up with the rebellion.
Well, not only that, but also the big arc, which I'm kind of really interested to see because it's kind of a different twist, is the clone troopers, like the whole new like the 18 version of the clone troopers. Those guys look cool.
What are the ones? What do they call them? Like the almost like weird.
With the troopers?
Yeah, they were almost like like they had these weird...
Yeah, that's the ones I'm talking about. Yeah, they call it the bad guys or the bad something.
Yeah, I can't... Boy, we're doing a great job covering the... But yeah, I mean, it's true. They are doing some things with the clones that are going to be interesting. The other thing that I thought was cool, too, that makes me excited for the Clone Wars is the fact that they've improved on the animation and the designs subtly, but noticeable.
Right.
So, I mean, yeah, for all those reasons, definitely looking forward to it. But it's kind of like you said, though, no matter what they cover in it, it's just like I wonder if they're going to bring Asajj Ventress back in some form or another.
In the words of Obi-Wan, possibly.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that anybody should, walk away from listening to this podcast and think that we're not excited.
Oh, we're terribly excited for
about, exactly. Terribly excited for the Clone Wars. But The Mandalorian just has so many different possibilities that I think we're going to go with that one.
All right.
All right, well, that's going to do it for our show this week. I hope you guys enjoyed our coverage of Star Wars Celebration, even though we weren't actually able to go. But, hey, we got to watch it on YouTube. We'll put some links in the show notes to each one of these panels so you could check them out. Maybe tweet us your thoughts on @HeadToHeadSW on Twitter. Of course, you can always hit us up on Facebook. Same thing, @HeadToHeadSW, and Instagram. Check out our YouTube channel, and we'll even put some links to some of the products, Star Wars products, that we did mention today.
Yeah.
So you guys can, check that out, buy those products through our link, and, help support this channel. All right, well, I'm Eric Vansel.
I'm Daryl Sanders.
May the Force be with you.
Always.
Head to Head, a Star Wars podcast. Be sure to follow us on Twitter @HeadToHeadSW. Submit your questions for our next show. Visit our official website at headtoheadswpodcast.com. Until next time, may the Force be with you, always.